Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kuldip Sandhu, and welcome to my Digital Leaders Innovation Week presentation on the topic of digital transformation of the IT function. I'm going to be doing a 45-minute talk related to how you can use digital simulation, gamification to give you and your leadership team and staff an experiential learning experience to aid your change journey. A little bit about me. As you can see from my career history, I'm a fractional CIO and management consultant. I've been working across the public and private sector for something like 26 odd years. I've worked for some of the top consultancies and some fantastic organizations over my time. And really, I've been focusing on how to help them transform and get the IT function aligned to their business and to undertake a digital IT transformation journey, which is very paramount based on the work that's going on across many organizations across the world as they grapple with Industry 4 and digital change. The webinar is going to be structured in 3 sections. I'm going to initially be talking about some research data that I've collected from some of my previous webinars, what people tell me about what's going on in their organizations and the need to make some strategic decisions and operational decisions. And what does that IT digital maturity journey typically look like as you go along on that journey? Then that will act as a segue into me doing a bit of a demo to walk you through some of the screens and play a few rounds of the simulation game, so you can see the types of decisions you make in the one-day virtual gamification learning experience, how your impact of some of the decisions you make impact business KPIs, and how that really could potentially relate to your organization. And then just a few example client testimonials, so you can see where clients have had tremendous value and benefits from taking or going through this experiential experience. And so I'll kick off by just talking to you a little bit about digital disruption and the impact of COVID-19. Over the last 18 months, as we know, there's been a pandemic that's been prevalent right across the globe. And there's some research data that was published earlier this year by PwC, who were just talking about where do you think the investment's going to go in terms of organizational and business transformation. And they say that a lot of investment's going to go into digital. You can see on the far left-hand side that they think that 34% of the respondents on the CEO survey said there's been moderate increases, 3 to 9% in digital transformation spending. Well, others have said it's been greater than 10%. And some of those initiatives are going to be about being more aligned to customer needs, being able to deliver services in a digital enabled way. And also some of those initiatives are also not only just focused on growth and enhancing visitor, customer, student experience, but more also how to help with cost efficiencies. Again, efficiencies can be gained as you transform not only your IT function but your business. So some quite telling data, and I think I quite like this graph that I've picked up from LinkedIn. It said what was the biggest trigger for you for your organization to go on your digital transformation journey, and as you can say, COVID-19 has been the burning platform for organizations to use technology as the enabler for digital change in their organization, and really thinking about what their business model for the future is and how can they make best use of technology, not only for efficiency gains, for growth and customer engagement. Here's some results of a survey again earlier this year, which showed, well, what are the barriers to digital transformation? And I think hopefully some of this resonates with you and your organizations. A lot of them were talking about some of the people, cultural aspects, but there are some other things around bringing in innovation, making sure that you're getting rid of technology debt and so forth. Has a little bit of a word cloud again from earlier this year, which kind of was talking about some of those things I've mentioned in the previous survey: leadership, culture, time, being able to overcome resistance to change, or try to fulfill the hopes and dispel some of the fears that people have around change. So with that said, I think we all agree, and I'm sure many of you in your organizations have been on a digital change journey, and they are difficult, and but it requires real strong foundations as you go on that change journey. And here's 4 pillars that I always hold dearly to my heart in terms of getting the planning right for transformation. 1, making sure you know what your plan is, the approach, knowing what the business purpose and the alignment that you need across your stakeholders is really important. Making sure you ideate with them, you're scoping and you're architecting correctly. Making sure that the leadership, that alignment again is consistent, and it's across not just stakeholder groups, but senior leaders as well. People know, you know the benefits and the rationale for doing the change. So there is not just alignment, but purpose, and return on investment is clear. Expectations are managed, and how that can result in customer and needs being fulfilled, and the impact that it will have on your business and institution, and from a kind of external market perspective. Delivery is really key as you not only plan and get alignment and purpose, but how do you deliver that? How do you manage third-party suppliers and report on that, and making sure that the solutions that you put in place give maximum return on investment. And to make all that happen, as we've said from the surveys, it's so key to ensure that the organizational change elements, from defining a vision and an operating model for the future, drives the correct behaviors. And that's why it's so important to have good comms and the right skills and capabilities and stakeholder management to, as you drive in the change across the organization and reap the benefits. So what I've also seen in terms of the digital disruption, not pre-COVID and during COVID, is that technology has now become pervasive everywhere. We know we have devices, end user compute, IT infrastructure to IT innovation being prevalent. And many of the larger, the biggest companies in the world are now all technology and database companies. And here's 3 models that I've sort of tried to put in pictorial fashion. You've got model 1, which is really kind of the organizations that's just really going for digitization and efficiency with some level of customer satisfaction. Or you get to the platform type of business, the model 3 there, which is really the digital enterprise. They've got a modern cloud-based infrastructure. They use data to give them insights around strategic intent and customer and market needs, but also drive their operational changes day on day. And they're really focused on innovating and having a business model that meets the needs of their customers. And they're constantly reinventing themselves and making sure that they have this enhanced online customer experience. And in the middle, you've got model 2, where you've got a little bit of the digitization going on for model 1, and they've either tried to acquire a digital enterprise or they try to grow it internally. And so they're somewhere in the middle. And that journey, and the reasons for showing these models really is to show that technology is now kind of the one of the key drivers for that change. And I think the CIO or the Chief Digital Officer, some of those roles have come to market very, very prominently over the last 4 to 5 years. And that's why I think it's so important to think about your digital strategy and having the CIO, the CDO at this, having a seat at the most senior level. And I think the other sort of point to make here is that it really requires your technology department or your IT function to be aligned to your business agenda, and hence the need to have your senior IT leaders at that top table to make those strategic and be involved in the strategic decisions as you go by. So that, and it was that that's really inspired me to during the pandemic to really think about how I could bring value to the marketplace around some of my experiences in helping organizations become digitally IT mature. And what I've shown in here is just a little graphic of the typical journey that I've taken organizations through in terms of maturing their IT departments. And it's usually typically going from an immature IT function, stabilizing the IT department, and then thinking about new features, functions, and bringing in innovation, being able to pivot to give you the agility, and bringing that DevOps culture where you got development, IT operations, working very closely to give you value. And this is shown in that kind of linear journey, and it isn't that linear. It's typically an unwinding journey, but there's a direction and a focus. And this is typically the 3, 4, 5 year programs that I've worked with in organizations. And as you go on along that journey, you're having to make a whole bunch of decisions. They're usually technical, organizational decisions, such as what are the digital priorities? What do we solve first? How do we keep on track? What are the right compromises we make? And how do we show that progress? And that requires some level of expertise in data analytics and business intelligence. And what should we invest in? And also from a cultural perspective, some of the kind of traits that you now seem that have come into play in IT departments and in the digital world is how do you ensure you're getting your buy-in from your business? How do you ensure you have a mindset for change? And if you're going to fail fast, learn quickly, and making sure that you're embracing and engaging stakeholders so that you're taking them on the journey for change rather than doing it for them. Anyway, it was this thinking that has inspired me to develop a platform with an organization where we've developed a DTXI, Digital Transformation Experience, single player. And this simulation platform is all about how we get alignment between the business and the IT department, hence the title of this webinar topic. And I'm going to try to show you that platform and maybe play a few rounds so you see the absolute value that can bring to you or your organization with some of those client testimonials I told you about. As you can see in the diagram here, the whole purpose of the simulation game, and there's some screenshots from it, is to aid the development and the alignment of your IT function. Hence, I've called it digital business development. And essentially over 12 rounds of gameplay, you can make a whole bunch of decisions, see how those decisions are played out against a number of KPIs and how they impact your business. And you can play that in a fun, safe, and competitive environment with senior leaders, business leaders, and IT leaders to see how that growth journey could and look like and play out in a whole bunch of scenarios. And that's important, especially if you're starting your IT transformation journey or you've gone down a path where you might need to reignite it and think about what the potential next directions are. And you need some time to think and step back. And that's what this game and the scenarios that we've built into it have really inspired us to kind of develop this virtual environment. In the game, you're going to be an airline company. We called it Global Air. And the reason it was airline company is because pre-COVID, it was a game that we used to play in-house or in-room. And you're at the bottom of the leaderboard of 250 other airline companies. And the whole task that you have is to improve the business performance, and that's measured through your operating margin. You need to round by round, quarter by quarter, and we play 12 rounds, 4 quarters. You have to move up the rank from 250 to 250th, and improve that operating margin from a kind of negative score to a plus score of at least 20%. And you are the transformation director. The game cycle typically goes of you consider and think where you are in the scenario of Global Air and what they're trying to achieve. So that's the consider phase. Then you plan your strategic maneuvers and your operational changes you might want to make, and you can purchase those. You have a certain limited budget. You enact those in the game, and you see them play out, which is the do part, and then you see the impact of those decisions on your business performance, and you reflect to see, well, what worked and what didn't work, because you're playing this in a cohort of people, your colleagues. You can, through the facilitation that we provide, we can share those experiences across the team to see what decisions you made, what worked well, what didn't work, and then see how those decisions, what decisions you might want to make in your business to define the change journey and the roadmap that you might want to go. And this is a typical kind of Cole Deming plan, do, check, tack kind of cycle for the game. So as I said, in the game, you're the transformation director. Your aims are fourfold. You want to improve the delivery of new and existing IT services into global air. You have to implement those strategies. You need to be thinking about how to improve the service management and delivery of those services, how to move to agile ways of working, and bringing in a culture around DevOps. Your aim is to get into the top 50 of the airline leaderboard. There's two leaderboards, one for you in the airline market sector, but there's also a leaderboard between you and your colleagues. So it could be 5, 10, 15, whoever, a number of people playing the game. and then you compete against your colleagues to see where you finish. And having played this for a number of clients, it becomes really competitive, but really fun at the same time. In terms of the KPIs, there's 4. So as you play out your strategic and operational maneuvers, there's these 4 KPIs, the ones that get affected. So there's operating margin, customer experience, NPS score, the revenue that you're losing for incidents, and that's all lost revenue, and the benefits that you can accrue from building new products and services and releasing to the market. The whole aim of the game is to reduce the revenue that you're losing for instance, reduce that and increase that revenue from new releases, and that will obviously give you more growth and profitability, and also enhance your customer experience. What we'll do as part of section 3 is move into the game. I'll show you a few rounds and see how to bring it all together as well. So bear with me as I just transition over to the platform, and if I can share that with you. What you can hopefully see now on my screen is the DTX online simulation platform. And you can see the front screen. What I'm going to do is press the full simulation game. There's a demo version and an admin for the facilitator. If I press the play function, what's happening now is our servers and all our logarithms and all our data scenarios are now spinning up in the background. As you can imagine, there's something like 25 years of experience, data and scenario planning that's gone in to capture all the various scenarios that could happen as you, as a cohort, play the game. So we're going to play 3 rounds. In month 1, we all play it together, and what you can see is a screen that shows on the left-hand side is the leaderboard, and what you can see is Global Air shooting down there, and it should end or land at around 250th. In the middle of your screen, you can see Global Air services, front office, middle office, and back office services. On the right-hand side, you can see the technology IT infrastructure, sort of on-premise and cloud, customer experience score. I'm going to press the view reports tab, and hopefully this will now show us the impact or where we are as Global Air as an organization on those 4 KPIs I talked to you about. Here you can see the operating margin, minus 3.3, customer experience around 64%, and you can see the revenue that's lost through benefits, for instance, around 11 million. and the benefits that you've accrued are zero because you're not bringing any new features. In the middle, you can see a little plot. If we just press this button, what you can see is the green line is your revenue. The red line is your cost of your company. If you can get the green line above the red line, you're going to get some revenue and profitability, which is the purple line. And you can see the airline leaderboard, where Global Air have operating margin of minus 3.3. Just some of the screens you can see here. In each round, you have $50,000 US to spend on improvements and reports that give you insight to what's going on in the environment with Global Air as a company and in the marketplace. And you have a couple of other buttons I want to point out: Insights button and Strategy. The Insights button is really key because that tells you the strategic intent of Global Air in the game. So here, just to kind of point out that Global Air are here, the CEO is saying he wants to be at the end of Q1, he wants to be in the top 200 with operating margin 3.7. And the CFO is talking about reducing the revenue loss, for instance, from 11 million down to 5.5. And it's talking, the tech ops team people are talking about how it's difficult to prioritize instance in the service desk, and customers are complaining about the poor online booking system experience. So you've got the report section, you've got the insight section, in the strategy section. Just to quickly show you, this is where you make your strategic maneuvers. Here's all your services on the left-hand side, and here's the revenue that they generate on a daily basis. You can see the online booking system generates 180,000 US dollars per day and a level of customer experience. And here's some things you can do to improve service. You can introduce a failover, you can do a software upgrade, or introduce a microservice. If I press the strategy list, you can see all the things. Remember, we're going to be playing 12 rounds in the game. If you're doing it full on, you can improve the quality of your existing services, and each of these maneuvers that replicate real life scenarios all cost a certain amount per unit. You can improve the speed and flow of information in your business. You can improve the value of current services and the performance of them through incident management, availability reports, and looking at development logs, and also how you can actually manage the existing service performance and the costs for them. So there's a whole bunch of plays that you can play over the 12 rounds of the full game. If I go back to reports, I do remember that we've been given some insight for Q1 about what Global Air and the CFO and the CEO and the current scenario around tech ops and the service desk is. We can use, we've got $50,000 to spend for. So if we played 1 month, one out, we're going to play month 2. And I think what I'm going to do in the next 2 rounds, just to give you a flavor, is just to play those months out and spend this money to make some improvements and see how that impacts those KPIs as I play those 2 rounds or those two months out. But to understand what's going on, I'm going to purchase the service, go to the service performance area, and this is the happy path that I would go on. You've got to remember that I've played this game before, and this is where the learning would happen as you take your staff on this training experience. There's a number of reports you can purchase: the availability report, the mean time to restore report, and the problem management report, and they all cost something. And the reason I think availability report is going to be important, I'm going to purchase it for 20,000. It does give you a flavor of what's up and what's down. It's so important in a business to understand what your critical systems are and what's working and what's not working. And as you can see, if I just filter across my services, you can see the online booking, which should be generating 180,000 US dollars per day, is only generating 40-odd thousand. It's a low availability. And I really need to know what's going on with it. And that's where problem management comes in. Again, I've spent 20,000 on the availability report, but I'm also going to spend another 15,000 on my problem management report, because the problem management gets to the root cause of the instance that they might be faced on. So again, I'll filter on revenue generated for that service, the availability, and problem management is telling me there's some software issues in the online booking system and the payment system. So what I'm going to do is, armed with that information, and I've still got 15,000 US dollars to spend, I'm going to try to go and fix the online booking system from an instant perspective, because that's what customers were also complaining about. So a software upgrade is 15,000. That makes sure I spend all my budget. And the other thing I can do in this round, which is a free play for everybody, is that I'm going to be prioritizing my services, my front-facing customer services, and giving them a high, medium, low priority. Any service that generates 100,000 and above, I'm going to make it high priority. And why wouldn't I do that? The higher the priority, the more resources and skills and capability you are then going to put to bear to solve any challenges you have with those services. And why wouldn't you? Because they're the most revenue generating customer services. Anything that generates 50,000 and above to 100, I'm going to make medium, and anything below 46,000, I'm going to leave as low. And I'm going to save, and I'm going to play out month 2 and see the impact of that prioritization and the impact of doing a software upgrade on the online booking system, and to see what that impact has on those business KPIs. And remember, this is the happy path in the game that we'll be going through. But you still have the option as a game player to play any maneuver and see the impact of that, because the experiential learning comes when you make a mistake or you haven't got quite the right path from a transformation perspective. So what you can see here is that we were 250th. Those strategic maneuvers that I've made have actually starting to move global air in the market leaderboard. We're up to 227 as of 30 days of the month play out. And we can see there's a slight drop in the number of instances. So we're about 45, we've gone to 42. And let's have a look at those KPIs as well. We can see that the operating margin was minus 2.3. It's gone to plus 2.3%, slight improvement in customer satisfaction. And importantly, through the problem management and understanding the incidents with the online booking system and putting that software fix in, we've actually reduced the revenue that we're losing for instance from 11 million down to about 7. And we haven't introduced any new services at this point, but that would also give us some benefit. And you can see the lines in the graph in the middle. Profitability is going up, and operating margin, and obviously customer satisfaction is just tweaking up a little bit. And I'm going to play out month 3, because that will take us to quarter 1 at the end, and we'll see where we are. So armed again, I know the strategic intent of the business for Global Air. I'm going to go back to my service performance and see where other stability issues might be. And what I'm going to, again, filter on the most customer-facing revenue services. And you can see there's still some availability issues with the payments and the ticketing one. Remember, I've kind of filtered on the most cost efficient and revenue generating ones. And why wouldn't I? Because those will be the focus, hence another learning point. And I can see here, there's one issue in terms of software with the payments system, and the ticketing platform is a hardware issue. So I'm going to try to fix those. I'm going to move into my strategy button and think about payments. Payments, I'm going to filter again on revenue generated, and payments had a software issue that means 15,000 spend on there, and a ticketing platform had a hardware problem. So what I'm going to do is put in some failover. That leaves me 10,000. So those are the 2 strategic plays I'm going to make for this third and final round of gameplay in my quarter and in my demo. And I'm going to see the impact of those on my KPIs. So I play that out, and let's see the impact of trying to fix the payments service and the ticketing platform. Again, from an airline's perspective, booking and ticketing and platforming are most customer facing, and therefore most important to fix from a digital change perspective. And let's watch out month 3 and see what the impact of those strategic maneuvers have been. Here, what we can see, we're about 230th at round 2. At the end, we're now moving up into the close to the 200. The target was 200. We have just exceeded 200, which is great. The number of incidents has stabilized because we've kind of introduced those new maneuvers. Let's have a look at our KPIs and see if we're going in the right direction. What we can see, again, the operating margin has gone to 4.6. That's an improvement in the last round. And that's because our revenue that we're losing for instance has dropped. We were trying to get it below 5.5 million, and we've got that around 5. Customer satisfaction is tweaking upwards all the time. And we are 193 in the leaderboard. Now, I've gone through the kind of ideal path in this demo, but you can see how in this quarter, we've brought out a number of learning points. The first learning point is it's really important to have strategic purpose and intent. As if I switch back to my game slides, there's a number, once we've completed round 3 or the first quarter, I would bring the cohort together to assess where they are in the leaderboard against the cohort and in the marketplace, and just get the cohort to express why they did well or didn't do so well, and from that you'd get some of that experiential learning, which is reflecting on the decisions that they made and the impact that they had of global air in the gamification. And for example, as I said, the 3 or 4 key learning points that would come out of this quarter would be how important it is to have strategy or business and purpose intent. Like as you can see on this slide, what the CFO and your stakeholders were, they were clearly aligned, they have purpose. Secondly, how it's important is to have KPIs aligned to your business objectives so you can measure where you are and the trends. And so if you're moving in the right direction, according to the business decisions that you've made to maneuver where you want to, according to your business purpose and intent. Third learning point, how important it is to have dashboards that show you those trends, and that's where your data and your business intelligence is really important. And the fourth and kind of fifth key learning points from this first quarter in the gameplay with Global Air is that it's so important to get to the root cause of incidents and problems so you can actually make permanent fixes into your IT infrastructure or your IT estate, so that and making sure that you're making the right fixes on the most customer focused centric services that you provide to your customers. So that's the quarter 1 kind of metrics. Here on this slide, as you go through those 12 rows, as you can see in the bottom, there's the game months. And what you can see is the game, we only played months 1 to 3. We were working as a very immature organization, and you can see the Q1 KPI metrics there. What you can see as you continue to stabilize your business, you can you get a positive impact on your margin, your customer experience, the revenue reduces from the instance that you've lost. And when you get to month 6, you can then start thinking about introducing new ways of working around agile, new applications and business and products and services aligned to the business intent. And your KPIs should trend in a positive direction. And as you keep on going round through round and you implement those strategies, you get those learning through your cohort and the people that are attending the training, and we're sharing that information. And you can see the strategic, you can see the development path of your organization, the maturity of your IT function as you're maturing your business, and you can actually see the intent. And the whole purpose as you go through this 12 rounds of gameplay in a 1-day virtual virtual playing game, which is done in about 4 or 5 hours, is that as you're making these strategic maneuvers, understanding the impact of those decisions on business KPIs, you're learning about which decisions you might want to make in your own business and your institution. And that's where the value and the benefits through those discussions, and then thinking about what those key decisions you might want to make in your business are really, really important. Let me just show you how the capability in the game develops. And these are some of my facilitation slides that I walk the attendees through as we've gone through the 12 rounds. In accordance with those 12 months of gameplay, your operating margin should trend like that in the graph that you can see in the top. In the immature organization, we talk about thinking about your customer-centric services and making sure they're highly available, getting to the root cause of problems through the problem management, developing an instant log, the prioritization around that. And so at the end of Q1, you've got some good service continuity going on. And then we introduce concepts around knowledge management and channel shifts so that you're better able to serve customers through self-service, and you reduce the time for fixing incidents. And we introduce concepts and configuration management and being able to understand the impact of incidents through having an asset and configuration management databases, and you stabilize your IT function. In Q3, we start introducing business growth, and we introduce that through giving the cohort some extra money to spend on introducing new products and services. And we try to improve the speed and delivery of those products and services by moving from waterfall to agile ways of working, and then introducing things like peer code review, things like test-driven development, and so that those services are introduced not only at speed but with quality, and they are customer-centric and value-adding because they're aligned to the purpose of the business, and hence you start developing that DevOps type culture. And as you can see there, your KPIs that you see in those dashboards are around customer satisfaction, operating margin, revenue loss for incidents, and benefits from new releases kind of change as you go along that 12-month journey. And this whole gamification journey in kind of playing it out is done in 4 to 5 hours with your cohort in a really competitive and fun environment. And the simulation really highlights a number of key benefits: the need for customer centricity, hence the digital agenda, how you can bring about organizational agility, be able to pivot and change according to your customer needs, how you can introduce speed to market whilst you're continuing to maintain quality and aligned to the purpose of your business, how if you're introducing new ways of working with quality and aligned to your business purpose, you can continue to reduce the overall risk exposure you have. And importantly, as you're able to get to root cause of problems and fix the flow of issues, you can become more efficient through automation. And that's where the DevOps CI/CD principles come in around how you can automate the software development lifecycle. And this is all about making your organization more stable, more resilient, and more agile, and hence the banner of how all these concepts sit under the digital transformation journey for your organization in terms of transforming your IT function. My final section, there's a lot of information I've just given you, but I wanted to now just showcase to you a few case studies of organizations who have actually gone through the simulation training and what they have actually said as a consequence of taking senior IT and business stakeholders and their teams through this simulation training. Here is L&Q Housing. They're a major UK provider of housing services to residents and citizens. And Steve Shepherd, he's the head of IT service management. And you can see some of his comments he made in terms of the value, benefits, and the outcomes for his organization as they've gone through a number of these simulation training exercise. The ones that I'd like to kind of point out is, if you look at the bottom, it says energize the team for change. We hear that again and again as we play the simulation, and people, as I say, people can get stuck in their ways. They really need some stimulus or some energy, and it can really help in inspiring staff members, because they can see the bigger ecosystem of change and they can see where their role fits in. And certainly for L&Q, it's inspired them to improve and collaborate across their infrastructure, development, squads, and their business functions. It also led them to kick off a pilot around DevOps, and led to a number of simulation gamification sessions across their whole IT function. And as you can see, the statement, I'll just quickly read it out to you. Simulation training has actually enabled a mindset shift for the folks in IT to move to a DevOps environment, where the teams now understand the importance of supporting their teams from an operational point of view, but also understanding why it's important to deliver quicker, faster, cheaper, and better on time with the budget, and whilst ensuring customer centricity and business continuity. My second client testimonial is one of the world's leading events organizer, based in ADNEC, based in Abu Dhabi. Sanando Chaudhry, who's the head of IT there, and his team were a little bit skeptical about the simulation game, but as you can see, we ran it with them and his whole IT team, which consists of IT operations, infrastructure, a couple of business stakeholders, and here's some of the comments that he's made, and you can let me just draw a few of those out. They said the best things about the platform is not only just being a gaming tool, but actually allow the users to feel like it was real life. Obviously, we can't be perfectly real life, but it really does simulate the situations that you are faced in a competitive environment. And it was an excellent way for them to understand some of the key components of transforming the IT function and digital in context. And as you can see, Sanando goes on to say that beyond the ease of use, the platform is capable of helping team building, allowing users to focus all the time on customer experience and the value to the client and the organization. And that not only replicates real life scenario, but also provides challenges and expectations that we face in today's ever-changing and evolving environment. And what they also found really, really beneficial was that the journey, the organizational maturity journey in the platform really reflected their aspirations to be in terms of making the key decisions strategically, operationally, and it would really help them to understand the need for customer focus on their customers. They found as you can see from this comment there, it was an excellent session for them, and has now helped them to kind of develop their roadmap for change, and then go into an implementation. My final client testimonial is with the head of the service management office at a leading UK Russell Group university. As you can see, again, I'll just highlight a few areas of the testimonial. The team, again, were needed to really has kind of inspired them to change and think about things outside the box. As you can see, the sponsor there has said, not only has it given them reassurances that they are having the right conversations, but they are now, the exercise provided and enlightened them to get the team to think outside the box around not just their infrastructure or development, but to consider the other perspectives and position how other IT departments are functioning, so that they can get the insights around how you can use IT service management and agile and DevOps in how you could bring that about, and the value and the benefits that has in terms of transforming their IT function. And it's really inspired them to with new vigor to explore ideas on how developing their roadmap for change within the IT department at this leading Russell Group university. So with that said, what I'd like to say is that I've taken you through a 3-step journey. I described to you some of the research data and some of the challenges and some of the key components of transforming your IT function in digital context, and how it's not an easy journey. I then described some of the kind of business models where now technology is prevalent everywhere, and we need to make sure that as we transform our organization and institution, is technology at the center of that. And secondly, the importance of that is to make sure that was the inspiration for me to develop this simulation platform. And this simulation platform, I took you through 3 rounds of gameplay. It's usually 12 rounds done in 1 day virtual fun and competitive environment. But you can see the journey that you could go on from an immature organization to a stable, agile, and DevOps organization. And what I was also able to share with you was 3 client testimonials. Remember, we only launched this platform and this service earlier this year. It's now having tangible benefits to businesses and institutions on a global level. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love for you to give me some feedback. There's a link there to my website, which gives you more further details, where you can kind of have a further demo or book a session with me, and how you can get in contact with me. But I'm also happy to take any questions and answers. And I'd just like to close the session by just saying thank you for listening to me, and thank you for Digital Leaders Innovation Week for having me present this webinar with this exciting service that we've launched out to the marketplace. With that said, I'd like to thank you and wish you a pleasant journey and day wherever you might be. Thank you.